So I'm guessing if you're watching this early, you're probably on the replay. So thank you. I wanted to jump on today because we've had a pretty busy kind of food politics week, or last couple of weeks. So what came to my attention this week, though, was a brand new legislation coming into the Senate about GMO labeling. So I want to start with explaining what GMOs are. GMO stands for genetically modified organism, and basically what it means is it's this scientific practice of taking a trait from one species or plant or whatever it might be and putting it into another. And so typically when that enters the food system, we're looking at things that are plants that are herbicide resistant and herbs that are pesticide resistant. So companies like Monsanto, Bayer, and a bunch of other mega conglomerates are producing these GMO plants, which mostly are used for corn and soy, which is used for many things, especially in processed food. So, soy is in a lot of processed food in many forms. Corn as well, if you think about high fructose corn syrup and all of its many uses there, as well as those crops being the main point of feed for animals. So if you're eating meat, if you're eating processed food, 90% of processed food contains GMOs. So that's what we're talking about here. So that's what GMO is. Now I want to move into what this new bill coming in is actually talking about and what's actually important. So the thing about GMOs is there's no actual, there's no like ground rules on or any like distinctive scientific findings whether GMOs are 100% safe or 100% not safe for human consumption. So it really comes down to a personal choice whether or not you're willing to eat GMOs. So where this bill comes in is actually about the labeling of GMOs. So whether or not, if you pick up a food item at this grocery store, do they know what if you pick it up off the shelf, do you know if it has GMOs in it or not? Right now, the only way to know if your food does not have GMOs in it is to buy organic or to find that there's also a like a non-GMO initiative. So if you find that on your package, but that's the only other way. Right now, the United States is lagging. There are 64 countries in the world that require GMO labeling in a very clear manner, saying that it contains genetically engineered ingredients or something of that effect. So this whole debate is very relevant right now in America. So they want to talk about why this is important. The labeling of GMOs isn't actually about the GMOs themselves. That, again, is a personal decision whether or not you want to consume them or not. The labeling is about your consumer rights and your right to know what is in the food that you're eating. So just like any other ingredients, we have the right to know whether the food that we're picking off the shelf at the grocery store has GMOs in it or not. So a couple of years ago, Vermont was the first to successfully pass a bill that would require companies to clearly label on their foods whether or not something contained genetically modified ingredients. So big companies like Mars, Pepsi, they actually started doing that before it was actually mandated, and the mandate is actually July 1st. So this Friday was actually the date from that bill. But in good timing, there is a new bill that has now been entered into the Senate that will actually negate all of that progress that we made from the Vermont bill. So to talk about this new bill, what it does is it's going to take requirements up to a national level. So Vermont had passed a statewide or a state, kind of a multi-state regulation, but what this would do is cause it to go national. It would set national standards for voluntary labeling. So companies would be able to decide whether or not they're going to label or not. And if they label, they have the option to not state it clearly. So they have the option to put the little QR codes, those little, they're like little squares. They almost look like a high-tech barcode. They could do that. They could put an 800 number or a website that would cause users to have to go through all these different steps to figure out whether or not there's GMOs in their food. So if you think about it, if you're at the grocery store and you're picking something off the shelf, if there's a QR code on it, one, you have to have a smartphone to read it, and two, you have to know which app or how to pull it up, and then you're going to decipher whatever that QR code brings you to figure out, okay, where do I find whether or not this is really a GMO ingredient or not. And then again, even if it's a website or a phone number, you're still going through all these extra steps just to find out what's in your food when you're standing there at the grocery store. From a consumer standpoint, it's absolutely absurd. The other thing that this bill would do is it would allow, if it gets passed, it will allow the Secretary of Agriculture 2 long years to figure out what exactly the mandate is for this voluntary labeling. So it's pushing, not only is it negating the progress that we've made, but now it's giving them extra time to figure out what exactly they want to do instead of giving us the labels that they want. And the other kind of funny thing about this new label is that it doesn't necessarily cover meat. And that's because of the division of how our food is regulated. The FDA right now, actually let me back up. The USDA covers meat, poultry, and eggs, and any sort of egg processed food. And then the FDA covers everything else. So that division causes issues in actually who's regulating the labels on that. So it's not an all-encompassing, if we want to know what's genetically modified, it's not all-encompassing. It's not helping us as consumers to know what exactly is in our food. So here's where we're at. We've got this new bill coming in that is going to be voted on next week. Right now, I've read from multiple reports that they want to move it in on July 5th when the House comes back from holiday vacation. So what we can do now is call your senators, call your state senators. I'm going to put a link in the comments for a link that'll bring you to your state and your, all your state senators to be able to call and do that. And so this is funny. I had actually never done this before. They always say, like, if there's an issue you care about, just call your senators or call your representatives. I had never done this before until this morning. And it was so easy. Literally, you call the number, and they're all set up a little bit differently depending on, the individual. But either you can leave a message voicing your concern, or you can reach one of the people on their staff and talk to them about, your concerns. So what I did is for both of my senators, Feinstein and Boxer, I called both of their offices today. Literally took me 2 to 3 minutes each, and it was done. And all I did was voice my concern about why consumers have the right to know what's in their food and why I want GMOs to be labeled. And they wanted my zip code, and that was it. It was so easy. And we all need to be practicing this and doing this. I think we're in a state right now, especially here in America, in a presidential election, a very controversial election. A lot of us are feeling politically heated, but here's one of those chances where you have to use your voice. And so use it. So if you are, kind of coming all circle here, why do we care about this? Well, again, this isn't about whether or not GMOs are safe to eat or not. That's still kind of out there and not confirmed yet. Again, it's a personal decision for you to make. But in order for you to make it, you need to know what foods they're in. So the consumer right to know what is in your food is incredibly important so that you can make those choices. These are the foods that you're putting in your body that become you. These are the foods that you're feeding your families, your children. You want to know what's in them. And unfortunately still, because of other systematic reasons, eating organic can get expensive. So if you're not in a place where you can buy everything organic, then this is especially important for you because you want to know what is in your food. So again, I'm going to post links to your senators, your state senators, and their phone numbers. I implore you to spend 5 minutes today or any day this week before the 5th, that's Tuesday of next week, to call your senators, voice your opinion, and tell them why we as consumers have the right to know what's in our food. Thank you anybody who joined in today and is watching on the replay. I hope this was informative. Please be sure to leave any questions or comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And yeah, make sure to call your senators and today to let them know that you care. Use that voice of yours. Thank you. Bye.